What's up? Peace. Peace. Some motorcycles passing. I don't know. I'm bored. I'm sitting in traffic. So I'm thinking, and I'm going to start thinking out loud and see where it takes us. So I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about a couple things. Surrender, the color white, like the white flag, and like the ultimate goal of surrender. And then what does white actually represent? Like the color white in this reference, in this frame of reference. So like you hear about people that come into recovery, and that like the first step is about surrendering. Surrender, admit that we're powerless over, drugs, powerless over addiction. It's not the drugs, powerless over addiction, and that our lives have become unmanageable. It's not necessarily the drugs, because addiction comes in many forms. So we surrender to that idea that we were powerless. We were powerless over our addiction. The problem is, by using like a lot of people, this happens to a lot of people, but not everybody, but it happens to a lot of people. And most people who use eventually experience this on some form or another, that when we start taking drugs, we lose our ability to make clear and coherent choices. And we lose the ability to stop sometimes when we start. And this doesn't necessarily have to happen all the time for you to consider yourself an addict. It doesn't have to happen like ever for you to seek recovery. Like seeking recovery is a lifestyle. It's like choosing a healthful lifestyle. It's kind of like that, like an idea can be spiritually based, healthy lifestyle. So you talk about, so that first step is we admit that we're powerless. Like, I admit it, man. I can't do this. I can't do drugs and expect something that's gonna give me fulfillment. My own personal experience. I'm not saying this is what you have to do, or this is how it has to be for you. I'm just saying I can't use drugs and expect fulfillment. One of the underlying factors, is drugs are refined. Drugs are manufactured and refined with the specific intent to kill and control people. Like, control people, it's kind of like, it's hard to put it this way, but also we talk about, being enslaved by the drugs. So it's kind of like that, man. It's kind of like, it's kind of like shackles on one's spirit. It's kind of like becoming an indentured servitude or indentured slave to just having to support a habit. So then everything becomes about the material. It becomes about, what can I get out of the world, because I need to, fulfill this sense of, instant gratification, satisfaction that doesn't necessarily fulfill the sense of longing that people are looking to fill. Like, drugs are a way of escape. Drugs are a way of party. Why do drugs have to be part of the party? You know what I mean? Like, what happens when people, Like, why does that? It's not the way it is. You know what I mean? Drugs don't have to be part of the party, but that's how it's sold to us. That's how it's packaged. That's how it's packaged by the media. That's how it's packaged by the experience of, of our families and communities. That's how it's packaged. Like it's part of the party. You know what I mean? Once you've arrived. You've arrived now. But the specific intent behind it is to kill and control people. And man, this is kind of heavy. We're talking about addiction, and we're talking about drugs, and we're about to continue talking about surrender, which the whole point of this was. So like, we surrendered this, and the first chip, or the first key tag in Narcotics Anonymous, happens to be the color white, and it's supposed to be for the color of surrender. But then I looked up the color white in flags. The color white in different countries' flags mean different things. For example, in the United States, the color white in our red, white, and blue doesn't mean surrender. It means purity, innocence, like all these different principles, all these different virtues, other virtues besides surrender. Like the white in the American flag doesn't mean surrender. And for example, another example is in the Palestinian flag. The Palestinian flag is red, black, green, and white. And the white in the Palestinian flag represents peace. And I was thinking about it. I was like, damn, how can it mean surrender here, and it's supposed to be the international color of surrender, but it means peace in another country's flag? And I thought about it, because the reason one surrenders is because you are powerless and you need some peace. Like, you're fighting a losing battle. You're fighting a losing battle, and you wave the white flag because you're not willing to die for the battle that's already being, that you're already losing. And that's what happens with addiction. Like, continuing to use, if you're having negative consequences, if you're continuing to have negative consequences, and the drugs are not improving your living situation, or not improving your quality of life, then it's a losing battle. And that's what the surrender in the first step of recovery equates to. It's like, it's a losing battle. Like, you can't fight this way anymore. Like, there's another way to fight the battle. It doesn't mean you give up and you're completely powerless. What happens is, by surrendering to that part of by surrendering the battle in that way, you're actually becoming empowered, and you gain a different side, a different measure of power by surrendering, because now you know that fighting it this way doesn't work. So there's another way to enter the battle, and which is, when it comes down to drugs, it's abstinence. So you enter the battle once again, because the idea and the craving and the desire to use may come back, and that's what's going to happen. Like with addicts, with the experience of an addict, like the desire to use will come back, and so there's another way to fight that battle. They say the pen is mightier than the sword. It's kind of like that. What if the sword no longer works because you're fighting against guns? So you surrender that day, and you go, okay, I surrender this day, and whatever happens is out of my control again, because they have guns, because the drugs are still here. But how can I continue to fight this battle? I can't just let the drugs slay me. You know what I'm saying? I can't just let these guns slay me. So that's where the pen becomes mightier than the sword within recovery. You start to do some work. You start to do some internal work, and you start to basically answer questions about about yourself. You start to do journal writing. You start to read literature that's gonna basically give you guidance. Not just reading literature, but you start to read literature and speak with people that give you guidance on how to maneuver around this battle from a new angle. So back to peace. So the ultimate goal is like, now we surrendered to this fight today, and now we have a little bit of peace. And within this newfound peace, we're empowered with a different set of with a different perspective. So I'm no longer fighting a losing battle. I'm still going uphill, but I'm not fighting a battle trying to make the drugs do something that they're not designed to do. Like that's what we're sold. Like that's what the media and that's what the society sells us, that the drugs are supposed to do something, but they're not designed to do that. That's like picking, you know what I mean? That's like shooting yourself in the leg with the gun over and over again because society tells us that it's gonna make you feel better. That it's basically what you're doing is gonna alleviate your stress. You know what I'm saying? It's basically the same fucking thing. It's just a different kind of weapon. It's a different gun. So it's, that's just part of step one. That's surrender, and then so also down the line of the steps, like we answer these questions as we go through the steps. We do some introspective investigation as we work through these steps, and at some point we do what's called an inventory of ourselves, a moral inventory of ourselves, and basically it just looks at your assets as well as your defects, like where what part of your personality, or not even personality, but what part of your behaviors, what part of your thinking and behaviors, what part of your ideas, part of your thinking and behaviors are no longer like serving a useful purpose, and at the same time, what part of your thinking and ideas and behaviors are helpful, because there's a lot of behaviors that we develop within addiction and within society that are self-destructive. Then again, there's also a lot of behaviors and ideas that we develop within that same frame of mind, within addiction, within society, that were useful in addiction that can be modified, and it's called transferable skills. Like, what can I use from my addiction? What's still good? Like, what can still be used and considered an asset? So a lot of that stuff continues to go along with us. You don't change, it says all we ask you to change is everything, but your personality comes along with you. You know what I mean? Your personality and your behavior and your thinking and ideas change over time, like you evolve or you grow. We can just simply put it as we grow with this newfound information we get in recovery, talking with other recovering addicts and into this literature and into spirituality and part of that moral inventory, the part about the defects, the part of your character that's actually more self-destructive than it is productive in our life, those defects. So like people talk about first we write down our defects of character, then we share them with somebody so that it's not as because when we do this writing, man, it feels like because it's a self-centered process. It's a self-centered process, not total self-centered, but it's like an introspective, like you have to look at yourself kind of a process. But when you share it with somebody, you realize, like, the person I'm sharing with has gone through half of this shit anyway. And sometimes they've gone through more, sometimes they haven't gone through as much. But the experience is the same. At the end result is like degradation, feeling a sense of powerlessness, feeling pain, loss, grief, desperation. All these are the common threads of addiction, that no matter what your addiction looked like, or no matter what your lifestyle looked like, it's a common thread for everybody to experience these things. And there's a way, and what happens when you do this inventory is they look huge. They look like it's like a mountain, and it looks like something you'll never be able to get over, but you share it, and you kind of like you allow the weight of it to be carried by another person. So I'm saying, like, you're telling me all these things you feel about yourself, and all these things you say you may have done, but I still love you. You know what I mean? So when you share your inventory with me, and at the end of it, I say, you know what? I'm still here for you, though. I'm here to support you. I'm still here to show you love through this whole process. That's me accepting weight. That's me taking the weight off of you. And like, I'm helping you take it off of yourself and like set it down and leave it where it is. Like, to not have to carry the same burden for the rest of your life. It's like, one addict helping another is without parallel. So that's part of the process. So we get these character defects, and we look at our defects, and we're like, damn, like, I'm hella selfish. Sometimes I can be greedy. Sometimes I'm lustful. Sometimes I'm manipulative, self-seeking. I'm a liar. Like, I've had to become a lie. Like, it's a quick response just to lie about something, because we're so used to lying, because we're in our addiction, and we can't let people in on the truth. When we're in addiction, a lot of the times we're in denial. So when we're in denial, we lie a lot. Like, that's just kind of the nature of it. So we develop a habit of lying, and when we get clean, that fucking habit still hasn't been broken. It's a vicious cycle. And sometimes you'll be in recovering, somebody will ask you about some shit and you'll lie about it, and as the lie is coming out of your mouth, you're thinking to yourself, why the fuck am I lying about this? There's no reason to lie about it, but it's just a habit. It's a habit because it's a lack of self-acceptance, and we're still coming out of like a fog of the denial, and learning how to love ourselves unconditionally. So these character defects end up the lying, the manipulation, the self-centeredness, these things that may have served a purpose in addiction, but are now becoming a detriment in our life, because we're no longer in the lifestyle of using, so that these things that were mechanisms of defense or mechanisms of safety are no longer of use. So now what they've become is barriers from our recovery. So we have to try and let them go. And what happens is people hold on to them because they said, well, religion has indoctrinated the idea. It's like injected. It's like planted the seed of an idea that people are by nature, bad. You know what I'm saying? Because somebody took a bite of an apple. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not doing me any good. Like, that idea that, like, I'm bad because of a story of somebody biting an apple in the Garden of Eden, and like, that's not doing me any good. But what is doing me good is the idea that I can surrender that, hey, all that I'm not good because I'm a human, that because I'm human makes me bad. I don't have to care. I surrender that idea. I want peace. That idea causes me chaos. That idea causes me grief. That idea causes me pain. so I can surrender that idea. I don't need it anymore. Step one again, back to step one. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were powerless over addiction and our lives had become unmanageable. And then you go, we were powerless over our character defects because they're continuing to make our lives unmanageable. But and it's a vicious cycle. Like, we lie about something and we manipulate and we're unfaithful and we cheat and we steal, and it just continues to perpetuate that same behavior because we have to lie, manipulate again. We have to, it continues like this manifestation of behavior that doesn't make us feel good about ourselves. That's the behavior that makes us feel bad about ourselves. But we don't have to participate in that anymore. Like, there's a way to break the habit of participating in behavior that degrades your self-esteem. So then we have to build self-esteem up again, because all this behavior and all this like not loving ourselves. Like, when you use drugs, people will say like that, you know, there's a huge amount of truth to the idea that if you're using drugs, there is a lack of self-love, that there can be more love for yourself than you're showing yourself. Because when you use drugs, heavy drugs, you're literally taking a chance with your life. You're risking dying to feel good for a few minutes. And like that idea, that truth, that part of the truth is degrading to your self-esteem, because you know the fucking drugs can kill you. You know the drugs could kill you in one fucking hit, in one shot, in one snort. The drugs could fucking kill you, but you know, because you haven't learned. So this is the next thing I'm moving into. You haven't learned a set of tools. You haven't learned a set of coping skills, or we're not sure how to apply a set of coping skills that can help us become empowered to be able to actually make a positive impact in our own lives. Because the problem is, when we come into addiction, people say, well, I admit that I'm powerless, and then stop right there. Like, I can't change anything, so let's stop right there. And then that's part of that fucking vicious cycle. But the thing about that is, we were powerless. We were powerless until we came into recovery, until we started learning information and tools of how to positively impact our own lives and others' lives. The whole thing about it is, like, when you impact others' lives, someone else's life in a positive way, it's a self-esteem building act. It's an esteemable act. So it's like a virtuous cycle. So this is what I'm getting into now. So the way to break vicious cycles is to plant a seed and cultivate, nurture virtuous cycles. So then you nurture a virtuous cycle. What's a virtuous cycle? A virtuous cycle is, for example, and I'm not going to get too much deeper into it, like principles, what they call spiritual principles are basically virtues or principles to live by. But it's not just principles to live by. It's tools to use to where you look at a situation that may make you feel powerless, or make the situation like feels like an unmanageable situation. It turns unmanageability into something you can understand, and then empowers you with a way of life, with an ability. It empowers you with the ability to make choices to positively affect the outcome of the next moments of your life. So like, if I feel like I want to quit work because I'm feeling like, personal vendetta, or I'm feeling personally attacked by my coworkers, because maybe there's political differences, or there's maybe the person is feeling threatened by my being at work, so the person's position feels threatened. So when a new person comes into the crew, it's like, oh shit, like I wonder, like everybody's replaceable. That's what they tell us. Everybody is replaceable. So if this person gets like more praise than me or does a better job than me, then that means I'm not as valuable as I was before. So what happens is, like, there's attacks that happen, like, you know, behavioral attacks that happen, you know, personality attacks that happen in a situation where workers are placed against each other in situations that we're being paid to cooperate in. So we have to cooperate to get the job done, but if one person outshines the other person, then the other person feels like their job is at risk. So it's like that. So there's little, you know, what happens is, for me, once in a while, I feel like quitting my job. And what do? I practice, I apply the definition of these, what we're calling spiritual principles. I apply the definition of these words to a situation, and from a moment where I feel like dropping my tools and walking off the job, because I feel helpless and powerless over the way I feel like I'm being treated, like I think I'm being treated some kind of certain way, then I look at the situation through lenses of these principles, and what happens is you start to see what the problem really is, or the problem becomes evident, and then the solutions on how to move forward productively arise. So, like, for example, the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There's a whole bunch of principles in there. The first thing you do, like when the situation is unmanageable, I say, hold on, I gotta have some. Like I can't afford to walk off this job, or another thing is my ego will kick in and be like, don't let this person like take you out of your space. Don't let this person make you change the way you're acting around here because they're having a bad day, or because someone else has an attitude. Fuck that. Like, what can you do to improve the situation? So I have patience. I stop for a minute and I take a deep breath. Patience. That's a principle. Patience. I take a deep breath. Okay, patience. And I say, grant me the serenity. So I'm asking for serenity. When I say grant me the serenity is another form, a way to absorb peace into my spirit. Some serenity. Okay, I got a little peace of mind. Serenity is kind of like peace of mind. To accept the things I cannot change. So I have to accept. Acceptance is a situation. Acceptance, you look at the situation for what it is, and you say, okay, I see what the situation is. Like, I'm getting upset because I think this person is offending me, and the communication is off, and everything is looking ugly. So I see what it is. Accept the things I can't change. I can't change. Change is another spiritual principle. It's another principle. I accept I can't change the way that person. I definitely can't change the way that person talks, behaves, walks. Like, you can affect somebody by communication and by energy, but I can't change someone else's actions in the moment. I can only change my actions. So I accept that I can't change the other person, but when I realize that, when I get some acceptance around the situation, then the courage to change the things that I can, courage is a spiritual principle. The courage to change what I can, it just kind of comes naturally, like, because people instinctively want situations to improve. Like, people who sabotage shit, that's a learned behavior. That's not an instinctual behavior. It's a conditioned behavior. So whatever the conditions in one's life that causes somebody to be someone who sabotages, it's a conditioning. It's not an innate nature. Your innate nature is to want to fix things. So I find the courage to change the things I can. I'm going to change the way I'm talking to this person. Or sometimes I just get up and like remove myself from the situation. I don't have to be working right here. Like there's other work to do on the other side of the room or the other side of the building. I'm just going to pick my shit up and go somewhere else. I can change that. Or I can change the way I'm communicating. I can stop being like sometimes it'll be passive aggression. That's the behavior, you know what I mean? The form of somebody that feels threatened becomes passive aggressive. So, and then sometimes I'm battling that passive aggression, and I'm trying to like get aggressive with my body language so that person can give me some space or something. But sometimes all you got to do is say, hey, like, do me a favor. You're getting really close into my space right now. Like I'm trying to work right here and you're getting too close. Can you give me some space? So that's, proactive. That's proactive, changing what I can. And, usually 9 out of 10 times, if you tell somebody, give me 6 feet, that's a statement. And it's not a threat. You're just saying, hey man, I need some space. Give me 6 feet. I'm working here right now. Like if you were there first, hey, I'm working here. And then you come to agreement. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's easier to just get up and walk away. Like, surrender. I'm gonna get the fuck out of this one. This battle is a losing battle because this person has a hair up his ass. I don't know why. So I can practice some compassion. Like, man, I understand. I can see, I pity the fool type shit. You know what I mean? I don't want to put it like that, but I see some compassion will be helpful here. So I understand this person might be going through something. I don't know what his home life is. I don't know what their what they've experienced on the way to work that day. I don't know what they've experienced throughout life to get them to have this conditioned behavior that's self-destructive or destructive to a situation. It's not cooperative to a situation. So I start to get some understanding. God grant me the serenity to accept things I can't change, courage change, and then the wisdom to know the difference. Like that compassion is giving me some wisdom to know the difference. Like I can change a little bit of stuff. Sometimes I'll walk away, grab a bottle of water, go get a drink of water, and get a bottle of water for the same person that I'm having this little dispute with, this little passive aggressive dispute with. And 10 minutes later, I bring a bottle of water over and say, here. Basically saying cool off, cool it. You know what I mean? Here's some water. Water puts out fire. And it's a statement. Handing someone that you were just in conflict with a bottle of water is a statement. And it's saying, I care about, I'm thinking about you. I care about you. Cool off, calm down. We have some stuff in common, which is, this bottle of water says all this, that we have stuff in common. We have to work together. We both need our food. We both need our paycheck. That's what the water means. We both need to drink water. Like we're both human. And I understand that. And I'm showing you some compassion because I had some empathy. I thought about how you felt. Empathy, compassion, these are all spiritual principles. And what happens is it's a virtuous cycle that breaks the cycle the destructive cycle of self-destruction and shit like that. So we learn how to in recovery we learn how to view life. Like you practice this way of life for long enough, and it's it says in the literature that it's God's will. Like we have to surrender our will over to the care of God, and then ask for knowledge of His will. Knowledge is a spiritual principle. Knowledge of God's will and the power to carry that out. So look, when we surrender our will to God, this is the idea, and ask for and seek knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. That means we've surrendered our character defects, and now we're empowered with a higher sense of a higher self. We're empowered with a connection to a higher power. We're empowered with higher power. That's what it is. It doesn't have to be like I'm not life is too short for me to sit down and wait for God to do something that God has already, and the universe has already given me the tools to do for myself. Like, if you're starving, lock yourself in a closet and you're starving and thirsty, pray and see if the food comes. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to happen. Like, that's not how it works. How it works is I'm in a closet, or I'm in this room and I'm hungry. Oh, the food's in the other room? That's right. I have to get up and go to the food. I have to go and get some food. I have to make some food. Like, that's how it works. God doesn't, like, I'm hungry, and all of a sudden, now your belly is full. Like, you have to do some work. You have to take the food and put it in your mouth and eat it and digest it. Like, then you're full. It's the same thing with spirituality. Like, you have to practice this way. And what happens is that sense of emptiness that we were longing to fill by using drugs becomes fuller. It becomes quenched. That sense of longing is just a thirst. It's not empty. It's not hollow. It's not missing. It's just a thirst. And with water, you drink water. You're thirsty, you drink water. And what happens? You get thirsty again a few hours later. You drink a little bit more water. So it's a common. And then the more you get used to drinking water, you're like, oh yeah, water's going to make me feel better right now, because you're used to it. Your body's used to it, and you continue doing it, and you don't even think twice about it. You go, boom, I'm drinking water. Like, and it just becomes part of your lifestyle. It's the same thing with these principles. It becomes part of your lifestyle, and all of a sudden you're God-centered. You're God-centered. You're no longer like self-centered or ego-centered. Now you're living as like you're living a version of your higher self. Your personality is the same. Your character defects are no longer controlling you. They're no longer like controlling your life. And situations that were unmanageable and made you feel powerless before no longer baffle you. They no longer like confuse you, because you have a set of tools to apply these principles. You have a set of tools, these words, these ideas, these virtues, these principles to apply to situations that empower solutions being developed. And that's what happens. And it's just part of the human experience. It's not like, you don't even have to look at it in a God sense if you don't want to, if that confuses you. It's just part of the human experience. Like, you're living, you can either choose to perpetuate shit that hurts you and hurts people around you, or you can choose to perpetuate stuff that nurtures people and empowers people and cultivates loving relationships in your life. And that shit can happen at work. Like, it happened at work for me in this last couple months. It's a way of life. It's a way of life, and it's a way to view life. And it's like, one thing is like, instead of looking at the leaves on the ground or the leaves on the trees, or like, instead of looking at the earth, the ground of the earth, and saying, oh, look, it's dirt, you say, wow, that's the earth. You know what I mean? It's just a different perspective. It's not dirty. It's just earth. It's like people. We're not dirty. We're just people. And how you look at things changes the outcome of the choices you make. And that's just that's the honest, that's about as far as I'm going with this long ass 40-minute video. So if nobody told you they love you today, I hope you consider this video as an act of love, an action. That's one more quick thing I'm gonna get into. All the principles, all these spiritual principles, are different expressions and actions of the human emotion love. To respect people is to love them. To accept people is to love them. Accepting people for who they are creates equality. Equality is love, because we're the same. Unity is love. Compassion is a form of love. Empathy is a form of love. Courage is self-love. You know what I mean? Courage is self-love. Serenity, peace. These are like feeling love, feeling a sense of love for one's surrounding and harmony. All these things are different, verbs or adjectives of the noun love. Yeah. It's really, it's not as complicated as it sounds. I mean, you got to trip. I just explained this way of life that literally saves people from dying. I explained it in fucking 40 minutes. So like, really, it's really not that complicated. It's a lot to digest. And if you watch this video, I hope you watch it over and over and over again. And I hope this video inspires you to seek, information and knowledge of spiritual connectedness to people, spiritual connectedness to nature, spiritual connectedness to that higher self, to the higher power, to God, to the creator, however you want to look at it. Practically, I like to just, keep it simple. I like to cut the middleman out. I like to keep it simple and look at it for the practicality and how it works. It's like a math equation. When you do this and this and this, you get this result. But when you do this, this, and this, you get this result. That's how I like to look at it. And it's not out of my ability to choose this way, to choose wisely. It's not out of my ability to choose wisely. It just takes practice. Peace.